When was the last time a friend genuinely celebrated your success? Did they congratulate you without adding a subtle warning? Think about the exact words they used. Did they smile with their eyes or just their mouth? If it takes you longer than 3 seconds to answer, you already lost. Let us be absolutely honest with each other right now. You click this video because you want respect, money, and power. You are tired of watching weaker men get what should be yours. You have been putting in the silent work for years, but every time you elevate yourself, the room gets strangely quiet. Why does that happen? Why do your oldest friends suddenly have nothing to say? They are not ignoring you. They are completely terrified of you. You have been bleeding momentum to keep these people comfortable. You downplay your wins so they do not feel insecure. You think they are just giving you realistic, grounded advice? They are not. What is really going on when they tell you to slow down? They are managing their own deep, pathetic inadequacy. Every time you listen to them, you pay a massive status tax. You surrender pieces of your ambition to buy fake loyalty. Today, we expose 7 signs your potential terrifies your inner circle. 7 covert behaviors they use to keep you in the cage. Sign 1, the praise with a ceiling. A pat on the back followed by a quiet warning. Sign 1. This is the absolute favorite tactic of the threatened superior. They compliment your current level of success very loudly in public. They want everyone in the room to hear their enthusiastic support, but they immediately remind you of your invisible, hypothetical limits. They disguise their sabotage as the protective wisdom of a mentor. They warn you about terrible professional risks that do not actually exist. They invent phantom dangers to justify their own paralysis. King Saul of Israel faced this exact psychological terror. Young David killed Goliath and won massive military victories. He was a brilliant, highly aggressive tactical mind. The entire kingdom began singing songs about David's incredible power. Saul praised the young warrior publicly to save his own face. He had to appear like a generous, supportive king. But privately, the king's insecurity became a violent paranoia. He immediately restricted David's actual military commands. He refused to let him lead the main army. He gave David impossible, suicidal missions on the bloody frontier. He dressed his lethal sabotage as a grand royal promotion. Saul was utterly terrified David would replace him entirely. He wanted David successful enough to be useful, but he needed him weak enough to control. Now look at your own life. Sound familiar? Replace the ancient court with your morning strategy meeting. Your boss praises your specific technical skill loudly. He makes sure everyone hears him validating your work, but he pulls you aside after the meeting ends. His tone shifts from celebration to deep paternal concern. He warns you that leadership requires very different talents. He says you are moving a bit too fast right now. He suggests you stay in your current role to mature. Why does he suddenly want you confined to that desk? What does it mean when he invents flaws you do not have? Because your upward trajectory highlights his own daily stagnation. If you keep accelerating, his authority becomes completely obsolete. He cannot outwork you. He cannot outthink you. So he must convince you that running fast is dangerous. You are bleeding future income by accepting his false narrative. Every time you agree to slow down, you pay a tax. You are subsidizing a weak man's comfort with your ambition. You do not need to build new authority today. You need to stop surrendering the ambition you already have. This week, run a specific observation challenge. Observe exactly who praises you while capping your growth. Watch their eyes when you announce a major victory. They will break eye contact for a split second. Do not argue with their cowardly assessment of your future. Smile calmly, say absolutely nothing, and outgrow them completely. The dog accepts the leash because the master offers food. The wolf bites the hand that tries to collar him. Stop shrinking to make small men feel like giants. Sign 2, the withdrawn shield. A deafening silence when you finally take a massive risk. Sign 2. When you step out of line, they let you fight alone. Covert saboteurs will almost never attack you directly in the light. That would expose their deep envy to the entire room. Instead, they simply withdraw their support when you need it most. Galileo Galilei challenged the entire scientific consensus of his era. He mathematically proved the Earth revolved around the sun. It was a brilliant, undeniable truth that threatened the establishment. Many powerful academics agreed with his brilliant theories privately. They praised his intellect behind closed, incredibly safe doors. They encouraged his revolutionary ideas in absolute secret. But when the brutal Roman Inquisition attacked him, everything changed. His powerful allies vanished into the shadows completely. They locked their doors and refused to speak his name. They let him face the terrifying consequences entirely alone. They were terrified his new paradigm would destroy their own status. They wanted the truth, but they refused to bleed for it. Think about your own group chats and close social circles. You propose a bold new direction for your life or business. You take a controversial stance that goes against the crowd. Someone criticizes you aggressively in a public setting. Where are the friends who claim they always support you? Why do they stay entirely silent when you are under fire? They text you privately later to say they agree with you. A private ally during a public execution is a traitor. They are secretly hoping the angry crowd tears you down. They want the mob to humble you so they do not have to. If you survive, they will suddenly claim they supported you quietly. What has this fake loyalty cost you over the years? How much have you already paid for their conditional friendship? It costs you the courage to act boldly in the open. You hold back because you know you are fighting alone. You are protecting men who will never protect you. They read the messages, they see the attack, and they choose silence. They watch you bleed and do absolutely nothing. This is not a social accident. It is a calculated strategy of total isolation. The dog begs the pack for protection and approval. The wolf hunts the perimeter entirely alone. He does not expect the sheep to guard his back. Ask yourself one brutal question tonight. If I failed publicly tomorrow, who in my circle would quietly celebrate, identify the cowards who withdraw their shield when it matters? Cut them off before morning. Sign 3, the manufactured emergency. A sudden crisis that perfectly ruins your deep focus. Sign 3. They break their own lives just to break your momentum. This is the weapon of the deeply dependent, toxic ally. Alexander the Great had a brilliant older general named Parmenion. Parmenion was a master of traditional slow methodical warfare. As Alexander's ambitions grew to conquer the world, Parmenion panicked. The young king was moving entirely too fast for the old guard. During the critical battle of Gaugamela, the Persian king was breaking. Alexander was preparing the final decisive pursuit to end the war. Suddenly, Parmenion called for urgent, desperate help. He manufactured a massive crisis on his own heavily defended flank. He sent frantic messengers begging the young king to return. He forced Alexander to abandon the pursuit to save him. Parmenion unconsciously wanted to slow the young conqueror down. He used his vulnerability to leash a force of nature. Replace the ancient battlefield with your closest trusted allies. You finally block out a weekend to build your business. You tell everyone you are completely unreachable for 48 hours. You are entering a state of deep, unbreakable mental flow. Suddenly, your oldest friend has a massive emotional breakdown, or a relative needs you to fix a trivial problem immediately. They demand your immediate presence and sympathetic advice. Why do their emergencies always perfectly align with your acceleration? What is really going on when they demand your time right now? They are using chaos as a heavy psychological anchor. They sense your ship is finally leaving the harbor. If you are fixing their broken life, you cannot build yours. You think you are being a deeply reliable savior. You are actually being a completely manageable, predictable pawn. You are trading your future empire for the illusion of being needed. They do not actually want your advice or your solutions. They want your unfragmented attentions and your precious time. They want to prove they can still pull you off your path. Every hour you spend managing their drama is an hour stolen. You are paying them with time you will never get back. The next time they manufacture a fire during your work time, do nothing. Do not rush over to put it out. Do not explain your schedule or apologize for your absence. Say verbatim, "I am unavailable until Monday morning." Watch how quickly their life-threatening crisis resolves itself without you. The employee drops everything to answer the ringing phone. The CEO decides when the phone is allowed to ring. Let their fires burn. Midpoint turn. You are deep into this video now. Look at your physical posture right now. How many times today did you physically shrink yourself? How many times did you soften your voice to avoid intimidating someone? How often do you edit your success stories to sound less impressive? You are sitting there recognizing these toxic patterns. You probably feel a heavy knot of betrayal in your stomach. You are realizing how much energy you wasted being polite. The first three signs were merely surface behaviors. They were annoying tactical friction you can easily identify and avoid. They live out in the daylight where you can clearly see them. The next four signs are much darker and far more structural. They expose the psychological cage your family and friends built. They expose the chains you voluntarily wrapped around your own wrists. Are you going to keep paying rent on an identity you outgrew? To survive the next four signs, you must reframe everything. You must stop honoring silent contracts you never actually signed. Most men close the video right here to protect their egos. They cannot handle the reality of their own closest relationships. They would rather be loved and weak than feared and free. They will go back to apologizing for their own potential. The man who stays is the man who becomes incredibly dangerous. He is ready to sever the dead weight permanently. Hold the silence, breathe. The real psychological work begins right now. Sign 4. The information quarantine. A critical meeting where your name was mysteriously never mentioned. Sign 4. They actively isolate you from high-level intelligence and networks. This is the tactic of the quiet administrative saboteur. They do not fight you directly because they know they would lose. They know your potential is an engine that needs fuel, so they quietly cut the fuel line while smiling at you. Thomas Wolsey was the most powerful minister under King Henry VIII. He controlled absolutely everything the king saw and heard for years. New, brilliant, ambitious advisors constantly emerged at the royal court. Wolsey did not attack them physically or debate them publicly. That would have exposed his own desperate fear and insecurity. He simply kept them entirely away from the king's presence. He intercepted their letters and isolated them from the flow of power. He managed their schedules so they missed crucial diplomatic events. He starved their potential of necessary oxygen without leaving fingerprints. Look at the major deal you are negotiating right now, or the massive project you are managing at your corporate office. Your business partner accidentally leaves you off a crucial email chain. They forget to invite you to the private dinner with the client. They claim it was a simple, harmless administrative oversight. They apologize profusely and say they thought you were too busy. What is really going on when you are constantly left in the dark? They know your potential requires raw information to execute correctly. Information is the absolute oxygen of modern corporate power. Without it, even a genius makes terrible, uninformed tactical errors. If you rely on their summaries, they control your decisions. They can steer you away from opportunities they want for themselves. Every time you accept their polite oversight, you pay a massive tax. You voluntarily accept a blindfold they tied around your eyes. You let them filter the reality you are allowed to see. You are surrendering your leverage without putting up a fight. You are not seizing new territory. You are just reclaiming the access you already earned. When someone intentionally leaves you off the invite list, do not complain. Do not ask for permission to be included next time. Send this message verbatim to the entire group today. I noticed I was omitted from the briefing. Ensure it does not happen again. Then walk into the next meeting without knocking. The applicant waits in the lobby for his name to be called. The decider walks into the room because the room is his. Assume your rightful place at the table. Demand the standard. Sign 5. Weaponized nostalgia. A constant aggressive reminder of exactly who you used to be. Sign 5. They anchor you to an outdated, weaker version of yourself. They refuse to acknowledge the man you have actually become. Look at the brutal psychological phenomenon of the crab bucket. One single crab can easily climb out of a shallow bucket. It just reaches up and pulls itself over the edge. But when 10 crabs are trapped inside together, the dynamic changes. If one crab reaches the top, the others grab its legs. They pull the escaping crab back down into the crushing mass. They violently enforce total mediocrity to protect their own fragile egos. They demand that everyone suffers the exact same miserable fate. Think about your own family gatherings or reunions with old friends. You talk about a massive financial goal you are aggressively pursuing. You mention a new discipline you have built into your daily life. A relative immediately brings up a stupid mistake you made at 20. They laugh and remind everyone about the time you completely failed. They disguise their sabotage as nostalgic affection and shared history. Why do they feel the desperate need to remind you of your flaws? Because your future success is an active insult to their current stagnation. If you succeed, their excuses for failing become completely invalid. They use your history as a heavy choking psychological leash. They want to prove you are fundamentally no better than they are. They need you to stay the clumsy kid they vividly remember. Who told you your past dictates your absolute future ceiling? When did you decide their memory of you was the ultimate truth? Why do you let people who gave up dictate your altitude? Every time you laugh along, you surrender your current status. Every time you defend your past, you validate their disrespect. You are recovering the right to evolve without their permission. You do not need their blessing to become entirely unrecognizable. The next time they bring up the old version of you, do this. Look at them in dead silence for 4 full seconds. Let the awkward tension build until they look away nervously. Then change the subject completely without acknowledging their pathetic joke. The silence will crush the oxygen out of their disrespect. Do not let nostalgia become a psychological prison cell. The audience watches the past and applauds the familiar memories. The performer dictates the future and aggressively moves the chessboard. Stop defending the man you used to be. Let them talk to a ghost. Sign 6, Paralysis by Analysis. A brilliant, aggressive idea drowned in endless, trivial questions. Sign 6. They demand endless details to quietly kill your initiative entirely. They use bureaucracy as a weapon against your momentum. This is how mediocre men destroy genius without looking malicious. They wrap their fear in the language of caution and prudence. Shaka Zulu revolutionized African warfare with a short, deadly stabbing spear. He wanted his warriors to close the distance and fight brutally. He wanted to discard the traditional, ineffective throwing spears entirely. The older traditional chieftains deeply hated his terrifying military innovation, but they did not refuse the new weapon directly to his face. They demanded endless, tedious debates about the exact length of the shaft. They questioned the specific weight of the iron blade for months. They used bureaucratic analysis to resist his terrifying, disruptive potential. They tried to drown a military revolution in endless committee meetings. Replace the ancient Zulu council with your modern corporate boardroom. You propose a strategy that will easily double revenue in 6 months. The plan is bold, aggressive, and requires immediate, decisive execution. A mediocre, threatened colleague suddenly wants a massive feasibility study. They request a third-party risk assessment before taking any action. They want to form a committee to explore the potential downsides. They ask 20 questions about minor, irrelevant logistical details. What does it mean when they demand more data for an obvious win? It means they are desperately trying to delay their own inevitable obsolescence. They know if you execute quickly, they look incredibly slow and useless. Your speed makes their hesitation look exactly like incompetence. Their demand for safety is actually a demand for your total paralysis. They are using data to murder your momentum in broad daylight. They want to talk the idea to death so they never execute. Every time you indulge their questions, you lose your aggressive edge. Before any major decision, ask 3 questions in this specific order. What would I do if I had to decide in 60 seconds? What would I do if I had 3 months? The answer is rarely between them. It is usually the first one. When they ask for another study, state your timeline coldly. Execute the plan while they are still analyzing the imaginary risks. Force them to react to your undeniable, overwhelming momentum. The accountant counts the bricks while the architect builds the castle. Let them choke on their own spreadsheets. Sign 7, the preemptive surrender. A fierce competitor who agrees with you far too quickly. Sign 7. They submit immediately to avoid waking your true violent ambition. This is the most sophisticated and dangerous manipulation of all. They know that conflict will only sharpen your dangerous edge. When a predator is too powerful, smaller animals expose their throats. They offer total submission, hoping the predator loses interest and walks away. It is a survival mechanism based on appearing completely pathetic. Emperor Commodus faced this exact dynamic from the Roman Senate. When he took absolute power, the Senate was completely terrified. They knew he was deeply unstable, violent, and highly ambitious. If they fought him, he would destroy them and consolidate absolute power. So the senators immediately gave him every title and honor he requested. They built statues of him and agreed with his craziest ideas. They surrendered, totally hoping he would become lazy, fat, and complacent. It was a survival strategy based entirely on managing his terrifying potential. They fed his ego to put his raw ambition to sleep. Think about the new client who accepts your first high rate immediately. Or the rival who suddenly starts aggressively agreeing with your ideas? Or the boss who gives you a minor promotion without you asking? Why are they offering absolutely zero friction when they should be fighting? What are they trying to keep you from actually demanding? They are terrified that a real battle will make you even stronger. They know conflict will forge you into something they cannot control. They want you comfortable, wealthy, and deeply satisfied with your current level. Because a satisfied man stops hunting for the main course. He accepts the easy win and stops pushing the boundaries. You are leaving massive power on the table by accepting the easy win. You do not need to find new enemies. You need to reclaim the hunger you let them put to sleep. Do not let their early pathetic surrender dull your sharpest edge. When they agree too quickly, it means your price was far too low. When they say yes, instantly raise the stakes tomorrow morning. Demand more resources or demand a larger cut of the total profits. If they still agree, you keep pushing the boundary aggressively, you will eventually find their real ceiling. Only then do you know the true value of your potential. The slave accepts the easy victory and goes to sleep. The sovereign realizes the game has just barely begun. Keep pushing the boundary until it breaks. 7 signs your potential absolutely terrifies the people around you. The praise with a ceiling, the withdrawn shield, the manufactured emergency, the information quarantine, weaponized nostalgia, paralysis by analysis, the preemptive surrender. 12 months from now, you will be one of 2 men. You will be the man who recognized the covert sabotage and cut the strings. You will be the man who stopped apologizing for his own gravity. Or you will be the man who stayed small to keep his friends warm. Which version of him is sitting in this chair today? Both versions of you exist right now in this exact room. You are choosing one of them in the next 48 hours. You came here for respect, money, and absolute power. You cannot get it by playing the comfortable role they assigned you. Every day you tolerate their invisible cage, you are lying to yourself. You cannot grow while carrying the weight of their deep insecurities. Stop performing for an audience that secretly wants you to fail. Stop softening your voice to protect their incredibly fragile egos. If this changed how you view your own potential, the subscribe button is there. More hard truths are waiting on the channel. The next video covers the psychology of absolute silent power. Decide now.